with Israeli people. Following the attacks on Hezbollah, the pager attacks, and then following up with the strikes on the Hezbollah leadership and so on, he's suddenly seen a massive spurt in his popularity, and that seems to have emboldened him now to potentially go for broke with Hamas, with Hezbollah, with the Houthis, and ultimately potentially with Iran directly. Is that your reading of this, and how dangerous is that as a moment for the world?
Thanks, Piers. We're in a very dangerous moment for the world. Anyone who thinks otherwise is crazy. I've spoken to Middle East experts who say they've covered the region for decades and they've never seen it boiling like it is now. We could be on the verge of a much wider regional war than Israel has already created. And yes, Benjamin.
Israel, okay, so I was agreeing with him. Things are escalating, but up until to the point where he said Israel created. Israel has not created this. Israel, it's in the best interest of Israel for the whole Middle East to be at peace, for there to be no conflict in that region. I mean, this is pretty easy. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran who is behind all these escalation. And guys, you don't have to, this is actually very easy analysis, right? Think about it. Who benefits from escalation? Israel is not trying to expand its borders. Israel is constantly being threatened with annihilation. Increased tensions in the region threatens Israel's existence. So if you are a nation state that your entire existence could be threatened with increased tensions, that means you are not in favor of tensions. You're responding to increased tensions. On the other hand, if you look at the Islamic Republic, the IRGC and the Office of the Supreme Leadership, they get a lot of political power. They justify using the oil and gas revenues of the Iranian people to fund their war machine, to fund their proxies in the region with increased escalation. Escalation and war in the region benefits the people within the Islamic Republic and its proxies. So obviously, if you just look at the motivations, Israel, if you are seeing increased tensions in the region, it's because of the Islamic Republic of Iran, in Iran, and its proxies. It's not because of Israel. So let's continue.
Netanyahu, anyone who follows Netanyahu's career, I think, is well aware of the fact that he is a self-serving cynic. He, like Donald Trump, cares about himself more than he cares about his party or his people or his country. And we all know that he's carried on this war, partly, not only, but partly because he wants to stay out of prison himself. He wants to keep his far-right fascistic coalition together. And of course, escalating and escalating as we get closer to an American election helps him, because as even Joe Biden apparently...
All right, so like, guys, when it comes to Netanyahu's intentions, what do you guys think Netanyahu's intentions are regarding the things that he does, right? I give you three options, okay? He's in it because he wants to save Israel. He genuinely cares about Israel and the people of Israel. I give you four options, okay? He's doing everything he does because he's completely selfish and self-serving, and he's corrupt, and he wants to stay out of jail, and he doesn't care about the Israeli people. The third option is a mix of caring about the Israeli people and caring about himself. 4, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what his intentions are. What matters is that whether or not he's doing what he should be doing, or he's not doing what he should be doing, right? At the end of the day, I can't read minds. I don't know what goes on in that man's head, right? I have no fuck. I mean, I know when he was young, I mean, he lost a brother to war. He used to live in the U.S. And when he was a teenager, and he came to Israel to fight in war because he cared so much about Israel. So that was him when he was younger. I don't know how he is now, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what I notice right now, I mean, I criticize Netanyahu for many things before October 7th, but what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing right now is that his decisions are good decisions right now, regardless of his intentions. I don't care about his intentions right now. His predictions were correct. His not giving in to pressure was the right thing to do. So one example, for example, if we want to go by, I mean, I have so many examples like this, but let's just go one. The international community told Netanyahu to stay out of Rafah. All eyes on Rafah. All eyes on Rafah. Netanyahu said no. He didn't give in to pressure. He said, we have to go all the way. We have to go all the way. We have to capture all of Gaza. And you're like, oh man, this guy is escalating. He wants war because he will stay in power if he continues the war. And he continued and he captured Rafah. And now Sinwar is dead. Sinwar is dead. I ask you this: is Sinwar's death an increase in escalation or a decrease in escalation? Sinwar staying alive, what do you think? Do you think Sinwar staying alive would increase tension between Gaza and Israel or decrease it? So people don't understand that sometimes for you to eventually de-escalate and get long-lasting peace, you have to continue to fight. And Netanyahu understood that, and the international community did not understand that. And now, because Netanyahu didn't give in to the pressure by the US and the rest of the international community, Sinwar's dead. Sinwar's death is a major step towards peace, towards not having more October 7th and more tens of thousands of Palestinians dying because of another October 7th. It's great, whatever intentions Netanyahu had, it's great that he didn't listen and he continued with the fight to get Sinwar dead. That's how you get de-escalation. That's how Israel has gotten de-escalation throughout its history. The West understands that. The West understands the difference between World War I and World War II, and it understands that you get long-lasting peace through victory, through destroying your enemies. And Netanyahu understands that as well. Netanyahu understands that whenever Israel got long-lasting peace was because it crushed its enemies. That's how it got long-lasting peace with Egypt and Jordan. And now that's how it's going to try to get long-lasting peace with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan. That's how it's going to get long-lasting peace with other people as well. Israel notices that every time it did appeasement, whenever it could crush its enemies and it didn't, and it just backed down, what happened was it only gave time to its enemies to recruit, recover, and come back and fight again. So, yeah, I don't care about Netanyahu's intentions. He's doing the right things.
Apparently is acknowledged in private, he's trying to get Donald Trump elected. So for Netanyahu, there's a wide variety of domestic political reasons that help him extend the war. As you say, people tend to rally around in times of war when Iranian rockets or Hezbollah rockets.
Oh, another reason why it doesn't matter what Netanyahu, is Netanyahu continuing the war because he's trying to stay in power? Well, guess what? If any other prime minister in Israel would have done the same thing. And the vast majority of Israelis support the war against Hezbollah, continuing the war in Lebanon, and also against the Islamic Republic. The main disagreements in Israel might be over Gaza. And even if some people are saying, and that's because of the family of the hostages, because a lot of the family of the hostages they're looking for ceasefire to. I mean, I understand if I had my family taken hostage in Gaza, I might have had a different stance. But it's not about that. They're just desperate to see their family members back, and they think that maybe if we do a deal with them, they will get the family members back. Okay, so the disagreements is over Gaza. But when it comes to Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic, the Israelis are mostly in agreement. Like, yeah, let's go just fuck those people up. Like, what the hell? Yeah, like they're attacking. So, and again, if you look at all of Netanyahu's political competitors, every single alternative to Netanyahu that could be a prime minister, they all agree with continuing the fight against Israel's enemies. So what is it like? Oh, this is Netanyahu's doing this because of his political ambitions, because he wants to stay out of jail. Who cares? Every single other prime minister would have done the same thing. Even the people who criticize Netanyahu, maybe they would have done something different with Gaza, but not with Lebanon, not with the Islamic Republic. So yeah, I don't know why you're blaming Netanyahu for this escalation. It's so amazing how even if you want to criticize Netanyahu, go ahead and do that. But it's insane that you don't identify the Islamic Republic as the main source of escalation. You could I would this is the criticism of Netanyahu that I would welcome. If somebody came into a discussion and said, listen, I know the main force behind the tension in the region is the Islamic Republic, and they're starting all of this. However, this is how Netanyahu is responding that I disagree with. Like he should have done this. Here he should have done that. I would like, okay, that's a serious discussion. Let's listen to this criticism. How should he have responded over there? Why was that a wrong way to deal with this threat? Or the method of like whether politically, human rights, militarily, any strategy that you have a disagreement with Netanyahu, like, okay, let's look at it. Let's see why it's wrong. But to point to either Netanyahu or the IDF or Israel as a whole as the source for escalation, I can't take you seriously. I'm sorry. You're not. This is not an honest discussion. This is you just trying to make your side happy. Like you understand the people who follow you. Like here's the thing, guys. Here's how you should know I'm trying to be honest, right? I would gain more followers on this channel if I just 100% support everything that Israel does. If I just go full on, like, oh yeah, Israel is fantastic, there's nothing they do wrong. If I do that, then I am trying to gain a following. I'm not trying to figure out what the truth is. I mean, to be honest, I am trying to gain a following, but at what cost? Like, I'm not trying to do. There are some red lines, right? I'm trying to gain a following of people who actually genuinely care about the truth, not any kind of following, right? So there are times that I see something by Israel or Netanyahu, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's messed up. They shouldn't have done that, right? And that's not good for increasing subscribers on YouTube. It's not good for that. You should just go 100% in one pick a side and go 100% on that side. That's the best way to build a following. And I can see Mehdi Hasan. I can see that the way when they ignore some good points from the other side, some obvious good points from the other side, is because they know their base and they're more concerned about, I think, maybe I'm wrong, they're more concerned about making sure that their side is happy with their activism, happy with what they're doing. Let's continue.
Iranian rockets or Hezbollah rockets are dropping on Israelis. Israelis, of course, are going to rally around their government. That's only natural. That happens in every country in the world. So, of course, it helps Netanyahu. He's the ultimate cynic. Well, let's just deal with the agency issue first. A few things. One is,
well, Israelis, it's like, of course, Israeli will rally against it. So I don't know why he's saying that. He's trying to. Israelis are very. It's like he's acting like that's just what everybody does, whether it's rational or not. That's not true. Like Israelis have been trying everything else. They have tried appeasement. Israelis are correct to realize that nothing else other than absolute victory in battle will get Israelis the safety and security that they want.
Every country in the world. So, of course, it helps Netanyahu. He's the ultimate cynic. Well, let's just deal with the agency issue first. A few things. One is, a lot of those groups you mentioned have all said that their fighting with Israel is tied to what's happening in Gaza. Many of them have offered the Houthis, Iran, and I said this to you peers last time I came on the show, and you said, how can we trust them? I said, don't trust them, but call their bluff. They've all said, you end the genocide in Gaza, you end the violence in Gaza, you get a ceasefire, and we will stop fighting with Israel.
Which genocide?
NBC
The one
News
that
reported
Hamas started on the 7th?
Do you understand what he just said here? What Mehdi he said here? He said the Houthis. Look at the terrorist group that he lists. He's basically defending them. Listen.
Deal with the agency issue first. A few things. One is, a lot of those groups you mentioned have all said that their fighting with Israel is tied to what's happening in Gaza. Many of them.
So he's defending the Houthis, basically.
Have offered the Houthis, Iran, and I said this to you peers last time I came on the show, and you said, how can we trust them? I said, don't trust them, but call their bluff. They've all said, you end the genocide in Gaza, you end the violence in Gaza, you get a ceasefire, and we will stop fighting with Israel.
Which genocide?
So he's saying that the Houthis and Iran, by Iran he means the Islamic Republic, and all these other terrorist groups, they said that, oh, end your genocide in Gaza. So he's already assuming that what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide. And we will just stop fighting. And Israel should stop fighting because they will also stop fighting if Israel stops the genocide in Gaza. And it's like, oh, you don't have to trust them. Just call their bluff. As if, I don't understand how stupid you have to be. So Israel has some military objectives, in Gaza. It has been attacked from Gaza. An act of genocide has happened against the Jews, bigger than anything, against Jews and all other Israelis, bigger than anything in the history of Israel. And instead of trying to complete its military objectives in Gaza, Israel should instead call the bluff of the Houthis for what? What would that achieve? To show the world that the Islamic Republic is lying and the Houthis are lying? I mean, what would that do? Would the world sit back and be like, oh, Israel was right about this. Sorry. I mean, why should Israel care about the world's opinions on the Houthis and the Islamic Republic rather than a higher priority objective here, which is killing its enemies in Gaza, the people who, guys, can you make me understand what the logic here is? This is absolutely insane. Mehdi Hasan is saying that to end the war in Gaza, to stop fighting in Gaza, he calls the genocide in Gaza, with the objective of calling the bluff of the Houthis and Iran, is like, oh, either they will stop the war or won't. If they stop, if the Houthis and the Islamic Republic stops, then you win because you managed to make them stop. And if they don't, you call their bluff, and now everybody sees that they're liars. As if the anti-Israeli people will get convinced by saying stuff like that. In fact, they would celebrate them. First of all, if they stop, that's not a win for Israel. That's a lose for Israel, because the Islamic Republic and the Houthis will show to the world that their terrorist activities has made Israel back down. It will encourage more terrorism by Houthis and the Islamic Republic. I mean, this is so obvious. Do I need to even explain this? Do you see the logic here? Do you see how insane Mehdi Hasan here? What Mehdi Hasan is saying, how insane it is? It makes absolutely no sense. And again, he calls the war, the fighting in Gaza, a genocide, which I already had responded to before. And also, by the way, do you understand that the Islamic Republic has started this war? I mean, I could show you this, that this is... Okay, let's continue. Let's see what he says.
On the 7th?
The
genocide that Hamas started on the 7th?
The genocide that your country's... The genocide that your country's being investigated... Can I finish a sentence? The genocide that your country is being investigated for the International Court of Justice right now.
Jonathan, let Mehdi finish his point. Jonathan, I'll let you respond after Mehdi finishes his point.
Yeah.
So let's get to the international court. I don't know if he's going to continue that, but I'm going to respond to that international court. He said the genocide at the international court. I want to see what he says about that. I don't know if he's going to finish that sentence. But before we go to the International Court of Justice, I want to make something else very clear. So Mehdi Hasan is suggesting that this whole escalation with the Houthis and with the Islamic Republic will stop if Israel stops the genocide in Gaza, right? However, before Israel was doing the military campaign that it's doing in Gaza, the Islamic Republic had already started this. It's the Islamic Republic is behind the funding of Hamas with the intention and Hezbollah with the intention of wiping out Israel. This was before October 7th. So the war has already been declared. A lot of people are saying, why is Israel starting a war with Iran? The Islamic Republic has very transparently and loudly declared its goal of annihilating Israel many times. And to that effect, and it has claimed that with that goal in mind, it has funded Hamas and Hezbollah and Hashd Shabi and Kataib Hezbollah and Houthis and everything like that. So the war, do you understand? If the head of a nation state comes out and says that we are aiming to annihilate Israel, that's a declaration of war. And then when you fund your proxies right next to Israel's borders with the intention of attacking Israel, given that declaration of war and given the funding and the training and the military equipment that you're sending to Israel's enemies right next to its borders, that is starting the war. And then when October 7th happens, I mean, the declaration of war, you are already started the war when you claim that you want to annihilate Israel. I mean, if you are taking the threat seriously, you should have started a war with the Islamic Republic even with that declaration. You shouldn't have waited for October 7th to happen. So we have 3 steps. The claim that you want to annihilate Israel, the funding of all of these proxy groups and training them, and then October 7th, one of your proxy groups actually makes the attempt to annihilate Israel. It fails, but the attack happens. So the war has already started by the Islamic Republic. So if you say like, oh, if you stop the genocide, the war will end, the war had started many years before. You were already in war before October 7th. If what you call a genocide, if you stop that, all that will happen is that you give some breathing room to the Islamic Republic to try another October 7th. And again, guys, if you don't believe me, there's a Wikipedia page, okay, of calls for the destruction of Israel. And Iran has its own section. And you can see the supreme leader has its own. Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, stated in the year 2000, okay, so we're like 24 years ago, that the cancerous tumor called Israel must be uprooted from the region. And in 2001, the perpetual subject of, okay, he said the perpetual subject of Iran is, the perpetual subject of Iran is the elimination of Israel from the region. In 2013, labeled Israel a country doomed to failure and annihilation, deeming it an illegitimate regime, led by untouchable rabid dogs. Wow. YouTube, I'm not saying these things, okay? This is Ali Khamenei, the Iran supreme leader, saying these. I'm condemning them. Oh, wow. Look at the dehumanization. I'm not even going to read this. YouTube is going to flag this video if I read this out. Jesus Christ. I'm not saying any of this, okay? Oh, he later outlined a 9-point plan for Israel's elimination in 2014. So you can see it was consistent. And again, this is the supreme leader. And we have so many other. You can see the Iran. By the way, I looked at ever since this is not complete because ever since October 7th, I myself have seen many videos of high Iranian officials claiming to want to annihilate Israel. So this needs to be updated. But you can see I'm just focusing on I'm not going to focus on the other officials. I'm just going to focus on the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. You can see year 2000, year 2013, year 2014. And guys, I, as an Iranian myself, I remember my childhood. We every year, multiple times. I mean, on TV, on national TV, there's calls for annihilation of Israel. We, in my elementary school, we burned the Israeli flag. We said death to Israel. We chanted, by school officials. This was part of official school curriculum in Iran for children to come and chant death to Israel. I used to chant death to Israel as part of my school. It was required. It was part of school. It was part of school activity, right? So this is I don't know if this is not a declaration of war. So who's like, oh yeah, if you stop the war in Gaza, they will back off. What do you mean? They have been preparing for 40 years to wipe you off the map. They say that. This was just one of the attacks that they consider a failure because they were hoping October 7th. So the October 7th attack was not supposed to be 1,200 people dying. It was supposed to get everybody, like it was supposed to be a starting battle and then get everybody united, and then there will be a way, and that was supposed to be the end of Israel. So these are just attempts, guys. The reason why now the people in the Middle East are not going to try anything like October 7th for a long time is because of the pictures and videos that are coming out of Gaza. Right? Because they're like, okay, yeah, maybe we can't do something like that. Maybe Israel's annihilation, maybe it will happen, but when we get like more powerful, maybe in the future, or maybe the Mehdi will come and he will help us out. But we can't annihilate Israel. When they're asking for cease, they're wondering if they are going to be annihilated. So they went from trying to annihilate Israel on October 7th to wondering if they are going to be annihilated now. Okay, so we don't know if there is Hamas is wondering right now if it will survive. Hezbollah is now wondering whether it will survive this, and even the Islamic Republic is now wondering if it will survive this. This is what demonstrating your deterring capability looks like when you went from trying to annihilate somebody to going to wondering whether you're going to be able to survive this. That is an effective demonstration of deterring capability. That's what a responsible government does in defense of its civilians, its defense of its citizens. So let's continue.
I barely started, but he doesn't want people to hear what's going on. All of those groups have said they'll stop if Israel stops its genocide in Gaza. NBC News reported that Israel killed Nasrallah because he...
You see that? He says all those groups said that they will stop. So he just trusts these terrorist groups. He trusts Hezbollah. He trusts the Houthis. But I believe them as well. They will stop if Israel stops, but they will stop this attack. They are not going to stop I don't know how stupid Mehdi Hasan is. Is he this dumb? He says like Hezbollah and the Houthis are saying that they will stop the attack if Israel stops the attack on Gaza. They will stop this, and the only reason that they will stop is because their ass is being handed to them. Of course they want a ceasefire. They want a ceasefire because Israel has the upper hand. But they want this. They don't want to stop completely fighting with Israel. They're saying, give us time to recover so that we could do an attack later. I showed you these people. I mean, Hezbollah's entire creation was with the intention of attacking Israel. So they're not asking for the war to stop completely. They're asking for this round of fights to stop. I don't know if Mehdi Hasan understands the difference. Why should I stop right now? If my sworn enemy, let's say, for example, you come to me and you have promised to kill me, my wife, and my children. You come to my house, you kill one of my children, and then you promise to finish the job one day. And I chase you and I injure you, and then you're on the ground and you're bleeding, and I'm right above you and I can finish the job right now. And you're like, hey, if you stop right now, I will stop fighting. Stop fighting what? Right at this moment or in general? Of course not in general. Like at this moment, like you're on the ground, you're like throwing rocks at me. I'm like, it's not hurting me that much. You're like, hey, I will stop throwing rock at you at this moment if you don't kill me. Okay, if I don't kill you, are you going to stop coming for my children and my wife? No. I will come for them at some point once I recover. But I will just, while I'm on the ground here and I'm throwing pebbles at you, right? I will just stop that. Oh, okay, sorry. Well, I have to finish the job. You're asking me to give you time to recover so that you could come for my children and my wife. Why would I do that? Like, oh, but I'm injured. You already injured me so much. Yeah, I have to finish the job. Your sole purpose in life is to come for my wife and my children. Of course I have to finish the job. Hey, but I will stop throwing pebbles at you if you stop. I don't get the pebbles are kind of hurtful, kind of is painful a little bit, yes, but that's not my concern. My concern is what would you do if I don't finish the job right now? That's my concern. I mean, this is pretty simple. I don't understand why Mehdi Hasan doesn't understand it.